If the panel would indulge the chair, I think the ranking member and I would like to ask one more question apiece. And by the way, we appreciate your tolerance while we were in recess at ease until the floor situation was addressed in votes. But Mr. Malia, you noted in your written testimony that the Basel III endgame proposal would have significant effects on both the Treasury market and derivative end users. Can you expand on how important it is for all relevant agencies and regulators to work together? Would it have been helpful for the prudential regulators to collaborate with the CFTC and the SEC before proposing a rule like Basel III?
I think the answer is yes. I think we had an instance with the Basel III endgame proposal coming out, and the left hand didn't quite know what the right hand was doing. I think the clearing mandate, which is a safer form of management for the Treasury market, came through. In the meantime, the endgame proposal has significantly higher capital charges for client clearing, up to 80%. And so those two policies aren't aligned at all. We think that the SLR, which is not part of the endgame, should be included in this to make sure that we have deep liquid markets. ISDA and SIFMA put forward a very thorough analysis of the trading book rules that identified a whole host of different elements that were gold-plated that we think should be go back to a kind of a risk metric and risk-appropriate level, which we can provide to this task force, because it's a very thorough analysis of how high the numbers were, and if you bring them down to a more risk-appropriate level, you'll get a better outcome. Clearing is one example of that, but we have an area where securities financing transactions, where the U.S. is all alone in proposing an 18% increase. We think that's too high. That would affect this market, and it's an imbalance with European partners that did not take the same proposal and put it into their rules. So that's another area, as an example, that we think should be modified as well. Now, we're encouraged, both the last proposals we were hearing about did seem to recognize this coming out of the Fed, but we have an opportunity to reset the deck here, and we would hope that they go back to a very risk-appropriate solution, include some of these other items, including the SLR reforms and the cross-product netting reforms, which are very important to make sure we have an efficient clearing market.
Before I turn to my colleague, I would just simply note I've been around long enough that I remind my constituents back home, these issues matter to every person. Whether they realize it or not, they matter to every person. And I've been around long enough for the dot-com boom and bust. I've been around for the shock after 9/11, the property boom and bubble and bust of 08 and 09, the COVID trauma that set off everything. We have to be prepared for the unexpected, the things that would seem unmanageable, because they happen. And that's why this task force and your input are so critically important, making sure we can address what may yet come. With that, I yield back the balance of my time, and I turn to the ranking member for his question.